Welcome. Let your shoulders sink into whatever is holding you right now, and let your breath find its own unhurried rhythm. There is nothing to solve tonight, nothing to remember. We begin with something almost too large to notice. Humans spend about 1/3 of their lives asleep. Across 80 years, that is nearly 27 years spent in darkness, dreaming, drifting, restoring. Let that thought settle over you like a blanket. Sleep is not one single state, but a landscape with distinct regions. Across the night, the brain moves through separate stages, each with its own rhythm of electricity and thought. Some stages are shallow, easily disturbed, like the surface of a pond. Others lie far below, quiet and slow, where the mind seems almost to dissolve. Together, these stages form the architecture of every night's rest. Roughly every 90 minutes, the body completes a full cycle of sleep. It rises and falls like a slow tide, moving from light rest into deep stillness and back towards something closer to wakefulness. Then it begins again, sometimes 4 or 5 times before morning. Each pass through this cycle is slightly different from the last, as though the mind is retracing a familiar path with small variations each time. Within non-REM sleep, there are 3 distinct substages, each a little deeper than the one before. The first is a light drifting, barely different from wakefulness. The second slows the heartbeat and lowers the body's temperature slightly. The third sinks lower still into a heavy, restorative stillness. Moving through them feels like descending a staircase into softer and softer darkness. Slow-wave sleep is the deepest stage of non-REM sleep and the hardest to wake someone from. Here, brain waves stretch long and wide, like slow-rolling hills instead of quick ripples. The body repairs tissue, strengthens the immune system, and rebuilds energy for the day ahead. It is the most physically restorative part of the night, a stillness the whole body seems to lean into. REM stands for rapid eye movement, a name born from a simple observation. Beneath closed eyelids, the eyes dart and glide as though following some hidden motion. This single detail marks one of the most active stages of the sleeping brain. Everything else about the body grows still, yet behind the eyes, something is clearly, quietly, in motion. REM sleep was first identified in 1953, a discovery that reshaped how the world understood dreaming. Before then, sleep had often been imagined as a single quiet state, indifferentiated and calm throughout. The finding revealed something else entirely, a hidden, active phase folded into the night, one that behaved almost like a second kind of waking. Eugene Asherinsky discovered REM sleep while observing infants, watching their small eyelids flutter beneath a slow, steady breath. He had wired his young son into rudimentary recording equipment, curious whether sleep held any hidden signals. What he found was unexpected. Bursts of eye movement paired with a strange active pattern in the brain, unlike anything sleep had been thought to contain. REM sleep does not happen only once each night. It returns again and again, weaving itself through the hours between evening and morning. Each return brings the mind briefly into that vivid, active state before settling back into quieter depths. Across a single night, most people pass through this doorway several times without ever knowing it. As the night goes on, REM periods slowly lengthen. The very first one, early in the evening, may last only a few minutes. By the hours just before waking, it can stretch far longer, filling the mind with extended, unbroken dreaming. It is as though the night builds toward dreaming the way a tide builds toward its highest point. Let each breath grow a little longer than the one before it. Feel the air arrive, then feel it leave, unhurried, taking a small weight with it each time. There is no need to count, no need to guide it, only to notice how the body already knows this rhythm. With every exhale, let the shoulders drop a fraction more into the mattress, the way sand settles after a wave has passed. Most REM sleep clusters in the hours just before waking, long after midnight has quietly passed. The early night belongs mostly to deep, slow-wave rest, while the later hours tilt toward dreaming. By the time dawn approaches, REM periods dominate the final stretch of sleep. It is as if the mind saves its richest dreaming for the edge of morning, when the body is nearly ready to rise. Brain activity during REM sleep looks remarkably similar to activity recorded while fully awake. Electrical patterns that once seemed to belong only to alertness appear again in the depths of sleep. Neurons fire in busy, overlapping rhythms, almost indistinguishable from a mind reading, thinking, or watching the world. And yet the body lies motionless, unaware of how awake its brain has become. Muscle atonia keeps the body still while the mind wanders freely through dreams. Nearly every large muscle relaxes into a temporary harmless paralysis, arms and legs quietly disconnected from the brain's dreaming signals. This stillness protects the sleeper, keeping the body from acting out whatever unfolds in the imagined world above it. Only the eyes, and sometimes small twitching fingers, remain free to move. Deep in the brainstem, quiet signals descend the spinal cord and switch the body's muscles off. This ancient circuitry sends its message without any conscious effort, timed precisely to the arrival of REM sleep. The instruction is simple and absolute: remain still. Long before dreaming was ever studied, this small, hidden mechanism was already protecting sleepers from their own unfolding dreams. Heart rate rises during REM sleep, quickening as though the body senses something happening within the dream. The steady, slow pulse of deep sleep gives way to a livelier rhythm, echoing the emotional turns of whatever story the mind is telling itself. A heart can race gently during a dream of running, or settle briefly during a dream of stillness, matching the inner world it cannot see. Breathing becomes irregular during REM sleep, drifting from its usual, even pace. It may quicken, pause, or shift in depth, following the invisible current of the dream. Unlike the slow, metronomic breath of deep sleep, this pattern feels almost expressive, as though the body is responding to unseen movement, unseen emotion, unseen weather passing through the mind. Body temperature regulation grows unreliable during REM sleep, leaving the body less able to warm or cool itself. Shivering and sweating, the usual small adjustments, mostly fall silent during this phase. For a short while, the sleeper drifts closer to the temperature of the room itself. It is one more way the body seems to step back, letting the mind take the foreground. Beneath closed lids, the eyes move in quick, uneven bursts, darting side to side, as though following something only the dreamer can see. This rapid, jerky motion gives REM sleep its very name. Unlike the slow drifting of the eyes at sleep's edge, these movements are sharp and purposeful, tracing invisible paths through whatever landscape the dream has built. Genital engorgement commonly occurs during REM sleep, a physical response the body produces on its own, unrelated to the dream's content. It happens in people of every age, tied simply to the biology of this active sleep stage rather than to anything imagined. Researchers see it as one more sign of how fully the body activates during dreaming, even while remaining otherwise still. Dreaming is not confined to REM sleep alone. Wake someone from ordinary non-REM sleep, and they will often describe a dream too, though a thinner, more fragmented one. Brain regions can generate imagery even without the theater of rapid eye movement. Sleep science now treats dreaming as a spectrum, rather than a switch, present in some form through much of the night. Feel the weight of the body now, settling into the mattress like sand finding its level. Let the shoulders sink first, heavy and unclenched. Then the arms, then the hands, fingers curling loose against the sheets. The hips grow heavier still, and the legs follow, ankles rolling outward, feet loosening their grip on the day. Everything you carried is being set down, piece by piece, into the dark. Non-REM dreams tend to arrive dimmer and thinner than their REM counterparts. They carry fewer characters, less motion, and a more ordinary texture, closer to a stray thought than a full story, where REM dreams might sweep the dreamer through vivid, illogical worlds. Non-REM dreams often linger on a single scene, a repeated task, or a vague feeling without much shape. Waking from REM sleep gives the clearest window into dreaming. Roughly 80% of people roused from this stage can recount a dream, often in detail. Pull someone from deep non-REM sleep instead, and recall drops sharply, sometimes to almost nothing. The timing of waking, it turns out, shapes how much of the night's inner life gets carried back into memory. Most people dream between 4 and 6 times each night, once during every REM period that arrives. Early dreams tend to be short and ordinary, tied loosely to the day just finished. Later dreams, closer to morning, often grow longer and stranger, wandering further from anything recognizable. Across a single night, then, the sleeper passes through several distinct little films, most never watched twice. A single dream usually lasts somewhere between 5 and 20 minutes, roughly matching the REM period that houses it. Time inside the dream, though, rarely feels so tidy. A few real minutes can stretch into what feels like an afternoon, a journey, an entire relationship. The dreaming mind seems to measure duration by a different clock than the one ticking on the nightstand. Nearly every dream fades within minutes of waking. The images that felt so vivid at 3 in the morning often dissolve before the kettle has boiled. Memory consolidation, the process that usually locks experience into storage, seems to work differently during dreaming, leaving most of the night's imagined life unrecorded, gone the way morning fog lifts off a field. Newborns spend far more of their sleep in REM than adults ever will, sometimes close to half of it. Their tiny eyelids flutter, their limbs twitch, and their faces shift through expressions with no clear cause. No one can ask an infant what, if anything, moves through that early REM sleep. Whether it counts as dreaming at all remains an open question in developmental science. REM sleep's share of the night shrinks steadily across a lifetime. Infants spend nearly half their sleep there. By adulthood, that figure settles closer to a fifth. By old age, it often falls lower still. The nightly architecture of sleep changes, shaped gradually, decade by decade, like a house being slowly remodeled while its residents rest inside it. REM-like activity appears even before birth, detectable in fetuses well before the world has given them anything to dream about. Eye movements and brain patterns resembling REM sleep show up in the womb by the 3rd trimester. What, if anything, unfolds in that inner darkness is unknowable, but the machinery of dreaming seems to switch on long before there is any waking life to dream from. Cats, dogs, elephants, and countless other mammals cycle through REM sleep much as humans do. Whiskers twitch, paws paddle at invisible ground, and closed eyes flicker beneath the lids. Researchers watching sleeping cats have recorded the same brainwave signatures found in dreaming humans. Whatever unfolds behind those twitching whiskers, the underlying machinery of REM sleep runs remarkably deep across the mammal family tree. Birds enter REM sleep too, though their episodes last only seconds at a time. A sparrow resting on a branch may cycle through dozens of these brief bursts each night. Their eyes flutter, their neck muscles briefly relax, and then waking alertness returns almost instantly. Ornithologists studying sleeping birds have found this pattern in species ranging from pigeons to ostriches, suggesting REM sleep reaches back further in evolutionary history than once assumed. Somewhere beyond the window, a low hum rises and fades, arriving without asking permission. Maybe it is wind moving through unseen branches, maybe the house itself settling into its old bones. It comes closer, holds for a moment, and then drifts back into distance, taking nothing with it, leaving nothing behind. Let your breath match that rhythm, rising and receding, needing no direction from you at all. Reptiles present a quieter case in sleep science. Lizards and some turtles show brief periods resembling REM brain activity that flickers into unusual patterns for only a few seconds. Whether this counts as true dreaming sleep remains debated among researchers who study reptilian brains. The evidence hints at something ancient stirring even in cold-blooded creatures, though its full shape is still being traced. Stay awake long enough, and the body begins keeping a tally. Missed REM sleep does not simply vanish. It accumulates, waiting to be repaid. On the first night of proper rest afterward, REM periods swell longer and arrive sooner than usual, as if the brain were rushing to settle an old debt. Sleep researchers call this REM rebound, a kind of catch-up performed deep in the night. The dreams that follow rebound sleep often arrive with unusual force. Colors feel sharper, storylines grow stranger, emotions run deeper than an ordinary night would produce. People recovering from sleepless stretches frequently report dreams they remember vividly for days afterward. It is as if the brain, given the chance to catch up, dreams with a kind of hunger it rarely shows on ordinary nights. A rare state exists within REM sleep where the dreamer knows they are dreaming. Called lucid dreaming, it allows a sense of waking awareness to surface inside an otherwise ordinary dream. The dreamer might notice the strangeness of flying or recognize a familiar face as impossible, and with that recognition comes a flicker of control. The dream continues, but now someone inside it is watching it happen. Training can teach the brain to reach for this awareness more often. Techniques such as repeated reality checks during the day or waking briefly before returning to sleep have been shown to raise the odds of a lucid dream occurring. Dream journals help too, sharpening the mind's attention to its own strange patterns. With practice, some people report lucid dreams becoming a regular part of their nightly life. Stephen LeBerge helped bring lucid dreaming from folklore into the laboratory during the 1970s and 80s. Trained as a psychophysiologist, he combined careful sleep lab methods with his own experience as a frequent lucid dreamer. His work gave the phenomenon scientific footing at a time when many researchers doubted such awareness could exist within REM sleep at all. The field of dream science shifted noticeably because of his persistence. Inside a sleep laboratory, researchers found a way to let dreamers signal outward from within their dreams. Because eye muscles remain active during REM while the rest of the body stays still, a sleeper could move their eyes in a prearranged pattern to mark the exact moment lucidity began. Electrodes recorded these deliberate eye movements in real time, giving outside observers undeniable proof that awareness truly existed inside the dream. Waking from REM sleep does not always mean the body wakes with it. For a short stretch, muscle atonia can linger past the point of open eyes, leaving someone conscious but unable to move. This state is called sleep paralysis, and it happens because the brain's shutdown signal to the muscles hasn't fully released yet. It passes on its own, usually within moments, as the nervous system catches up to the waking mind. During those suspended moments, the brain sometimes paints the room with things that aren't there. A shadow at the foot of the bed, a pressure on the chest, a shape standing in the doorway. These hallucinations arise from the same dream-generating machinery still running as the eyes open. Across cultures, people have described remarkably similar figures during this state. The visions fade as the body regains its ordinary control. Frightening dreams visit children far more often than they visit adults. A young mind, still learning to sort fear from safety, may produce vivid scenes of monsters, falling, or separation from a parent. These nightmares tend to peak somewhere between the ages of 3 and 6, a period when imagination outpaces the ability to reason through it. Most children outgrow the intensity as their emotional understanding deepens. Let warmth begin somewhere small. perhaps at the center of your chest, and let it spread outward from there. Feel it move into your shoulders first, loosening what they've carried all day. Let it flow down through your arms, into your hands, into your fingers. Feel heavy and full. Let the warmth reach your hips, then your legs, then your feet, until the whole length of you rests inside it, warm from the inside out. As childhood gives way to later years, nightmares gradually loosen their grip. Adults report far fewer of these disturbing dreams than children do, though they never vanish completely. The nervous system, better practiced at regulating fear, seems to temper the rawest edges of nighttime imagination. Occasional bad dreams remain part of most lives, but their frequency settles into something far gentler with age. For many adults, certain dreams return again and again, nearly unchanged. The same hallway, the same unfinished task, the same face appearing in different settings. These recurring dreams often trace back to an unresolved worry or an old emotional pattern the mind hasn't finished processing. Researchers studying them find that once the underlying tension eases in waking life, the dream itself often stops returning. What fills a dream is rarely invented from nothing. Conversations from the day, a lingering worry, the texture of a familiar room, these fragments resurface reshaped in sleep. A person who spent the afternoon by the water might dream of tides. Someone deep in a work project might dream of unfinished meetings. The dreaming brain seems to draw its materials from whatever the waking hours left behind. This pattern has a name among researchers who study it closely, the continuity hypothesis. It proposes that dream content mirrors waking experience more than it departs from it, weaving daily concerns into nighttime narrative. The hypothesis doesn't claim dreams are simple replays, only that they lean on the same emotional material the mind carries through the day. It remains one of the most widely supported ideas in dream research. A day marked by strong feeling tends to leave a stronger trace at night. Grief, joy, fear, or excitement can heighten the vividness and emotional charge of the dreams that follow. The dreaming brain appears to give special weight to what mattered most, replaying it in altered form rather than letting it pass unnoticed. Even years later, an especially emotional day can resurface in dream form. Tension carried into sleep tends to follow the dreamer inward. A stressful day, an unresolved argument, or a looming deadline can raise the likelihood of unsettling dreams once sleep begins. The nervous system, still running on alert, seems to carry that heightened state into the dream world before it has a chance to settle. Easing the mind before bed, even briefly, has been shown to soften what follows in sleep. Post-traumatic stress disorder often brings dreams that return, again and again, to the same traumatic scene. The images repeat with unusual fidelity, unlike ordinary dreams that shift and blur from night to night. Researchers studying trauma survivors have found these recurring dreams can persist for years, sometimes decades, after the event itself has ended. The nervous system seems to replay the moment as though still searching for a resolution it has not yet found. People blind since birth almost never report seeing images while they dream. Their dream world instead fills with sound, touch, taste, and smell, built entirely from senses that have always guided them. A blind dreamer might describe the texture of a staircase or the smell of rain rather than any picture. Neuroscience finds this consistent. Without visual experience to draw from, the sleeping brain has no visual memory left to summon. Losing sight later in life leaves the visual dream intact for years afterward. Someone who could once see continues to dream in color and shape long after waking sight has faded. Over time, for some, the images may soften or grow less frequent, but they rarely vanish quickly. The dreaming brain appears to hold on to visual memory long after the eyes themselves stop offering it. Deafness acquired later in life allows sound, to return within dreams that unfold in complete silence when the dreamer is awake. Someone who once heard music or voices may still hear them at night, replayed from memory rather than the ear. This holds mainly for those who lost hearing after acquiring spoken language and auditory memory. Deaf individuals born without hearing, like blind dreamers, tend to dream through the senses they have always relied upon. In a house at rest, dust drifts through a shaft of low light, suspended above the floor, as though time itself has slowed. Each speck rises, hangs, settles, in no hurry to reach the ground. Let your breath find that same unhurried pace, neither pulled forward nor pulled back. Your shoulders can sink now, heavy, unhooked from the day behind you. Whatever thought passes by can float on, unclaimed, while sleep gathers closer. Color fills most dream reports collected today, with survey after survey confirming vivid hue as the norm rather than the exception. When people are asked right after waking, the overwhelming majority describe scenes full of color, not shades of gray. Blue skies, green fields, the specific shade of a shirt someone wore, these details arrive intact in memory. Modern dream research treats color as the expected baseline of an ordinary night's imagery. Reports of black and white dreams were far more common in the middle of the 20th century than they are now. Studies from that era, particularly the 1950s, found large portions of participants describing colorless dream imagery. Later surveys, taken decades apart, found the numbers falling steadily as the years passed. The change puzzled researchers enough to become a small subject of study in itself. This shift toward colorless dreams has been linked by dream researchers to the era of black and white television. Growing up watching a monochrome screen, the idea suggests, may have shaped the visual vocabulary people carried into sleep. As television and film moved into color across the decades, dream reports brightened alongside them. The correlation is striking, even if the exact causal thread remains difficult to prove. Dream content across distant cultures tends to circle back to strikingly similar ground. Studies spanning continents, languages, and belief systems keep finding the same handful of themes appearing again and again. A farmer in one hemisphere and a city dweller in another may both dream of losing teeth, of flying, of being chased through unfamiliar streets. The settings differ, the details differ, yet the underlying shapes seem to belong to something shared. Falling ranks among the most widely reported themes in dreams wherever researchers have looked. The sensation often arrives suddenly, a step that isn't there, a floor that gives way, and many dreamers wake the instant before landing. Some connect the feeling to an old bodily reflex. Others simply note how common it is across every age and culture studied. Whatever its origin, falling remains one of dreaming's most recognizable and enduring landscapes. Being chased is one of the most frequently reported dream experiences across studies worldwide. The pursuer rarely has a fixed shape. It might be a stranger, an animal, or something unseen just behind the shoulder. Legs often feel heavy, as though the ground itself resists motion. Researchers studying anxiety dreams note how closely this scenario mirrors an old survival pattern, one the sleeping brain seems to rehearse without any real danger present. Teeth falling out is a theme reported so often that dream researchers have given it its own category. Some describe teeth crumbling in their hands, others simply feel them loosen and drop free. The imagery crosses cultures and eras with remarkable consistency. No single explanation has settled the question, though many note the theme surfaces during periods of stress about appearance, aging, or a sense of losing control. Flying without any mechanical help turns up in dream reports from nearly every culture studied. The dreamer rises above rooftops, fields, or oceans, often with a sense of ease that waking life rarely offers. Some describe control over direction, others simply drift wherever the air seems to carry them. The universality of this theme suggests something shared in how the sleeping mind imagines freedom. An exam never studied for is a scenario so common it has become a kind of cultural shorthand for dream anxiety. The dreamer sits before a blank page, the clock ticking, the answers just out of reach. Long after school has ended, adults still report this same unfinished test appearing in sleep. Researchers link it to broader worries about evaluation, performance, or being caught unprepared in waking life. Negative emotions appear in dream content more often than positive ones, across countless studies and decades of record-keeping. Fear, sadness, and confusion show up with greater frequency than joy or contentment. This imbalance has intrigued dream researchers for generations, since waking life for most people leans the other way. The gap between waking mood and dreaming mood remains one of sleep science's quieter puzzles. Let the jaw soften now. The way a held door finally eases open, there is no need to hold any expression at all. The muscles around the eyes can loosen, layer by layer, until the face feels almost borrowed, almost weightless. Behind closed eyelids, the dart deepens into something wide and unpatterned, a space with no edges to find. Let it hold you there, unhurried, needing nothing back. Aggression turns up with striking regularity across dream content studies, more often than most people would guess from memory alone. Arguments, chases, and confrontations fill a large share of recorded dream reports. Researchers coding these narratives find aggressive acts outnumber friendly ones by a wide margin. The pattern holds across age groups and cultures, hinting at something the sleeping mind rehearses that waking life rarely calls upon so directly. Alvin Hall, a psychologist working through the middle of the 20th century, set out to study dreams the way a naturalist studies specimens. Rather than interpreting symbols, he counted them, tallying characters, settings, and actions across thousands of collected reports. His approach turned dream study into something closer to careful cataloging than storytelling. It gave later researchers a shared language for comparing dreams gathered from entirely different lives. The coding system, built from Hall's work, later refined alongside Robert Van de Castle, gave researchers a way to measure what had once seemed impossible to measure. Categories for emotion, aggression, friendliness, and misfortune allowed dream reports from different decades and countries to be compared side by side. Thousands of dreams passed through this framework over the years. It remains one of the most widely used tools in dream content research today. Men and women, when their dream reports are studied side by side, show recognizable differences in content. Aggression, unfamiliar settings, and outdoor locations appear somewhat more often in men's reported dreams, while familiar settings and emotional interactions appear more often in women's. The differences are modest rather than absolute, more a shift in emphasis than a divide. Across large samples, though, the pattern holds steady enough to be worth noting. Male characters populate men's reported dreams more often than female ones, a difference that holds steady across decades of collected reports. Women's dreams tend toward a more even balance between the two. No one fully explains why, though theories point to differences in social attention and daily contact. The pattern is subtle, more a tilt than a rule, yet it appears again and again in coded dream data. Sound from the waking room does not always stay outside sleep. A ticking clock, a passing car, a voice from another room can slip into a dream, reshaped into thunder, footsteps, or a stranger speaking. The sleeping brain rarely rejects such intrusions outright. Instead, it tends to fold them into whatever story is already forming, giving the sound a place to belong. This blending of outside sound into dream content was tested directly, not just observed by chance. Researchers played tones, bells, and voices into sleeping subjects' rooms, then woke them soon after to ask what they had dreamed. Many described the sound transformed into some fitting dream event. The experiments confirmed something dreamers had long suspected about their own nights. One well-known version of this work used a fine mist of water. Sleeping volunteers were sprayed lightly while researchers watched for signs of stirring. Afterward, many reported dreaming of rain, waterfalls, or getting splashed, sometimes without waking at all. The body had registered the sensation and handed it to the dreaming mind to make sense of. Deep in the brainstem, a small population of neurons releases a chemical messenger called acetylcholine, and their firing helps trigger REM sleep itself. These cholinergic cells act almost like a switch, flipping the brain from quiet non-REM rest into the vivid active state where most dreaming unfolds. Their activity ties dreaming to a specific, locatable piece of biology, far from the realm of speculation. In 1977, two researchers at Harvard named Alan Hobson and Robert McCarley proposed a bold explanation for where dreams come from. They called it the activation synthesis hypothesis. Rather than hidden meaning, they argued dreaming begins with essentially random signals fired upward from the brainstem. The forebrain, they suggested, receives this noise and works to make sense of it. Let your breath find its own unhurried rhythm now. Notice the inhale arriving without effort, and the exhale drawing itself out a little longer each time. There is no need to guide it, only to notice how naturally it lengthens, how each release carries a little more of the day's weight away. With every outward breath, the shoulders sink a fraction deeper into the mattress, the mind following breath alone, needing nothing else to hold its attention. This hypothesis suggests dreams are the brain's interpretation of random neural firing, an attempt at narrative built from static. Under this view, a dream about flying might begin with nothing more meaningful than a burst of activity in the balance centers of the inner ear. The cortex takes these fragments and, driven by habit, assembles them into a scene. The story arrives after the noise, not before it. The amygdala, a small almond-shaped structure tucked deep in the temporal lobe, becomes unusually active during REM sleep, sometimes more active than in ordinary waking hours. This region has long been linked to processing fear and emotional significance. Brain scans taken during REM consistently show it lit up, working through the night even as much of the surrounding cortex settles down. The surge in amygdala activity may help explain why dreams so often carry outsized emotional weight, why a dream argument can feel as raw as a waking one. Fear, longing, and unresolved tension surface readily when this circuit runs unchecked through the night. The feeling lingers, too, sometimes drifting into the morning long after the dream itself has faded from memory. Toward the front of the skull lies the prefrontal cortex, the seat of planning and judgment, and during REM sleep, its activity drops noticeably. This region normally weighs consequences, checks logic, keeps behavior tethered to reason. Through the night, it grows quiet, its usual oversight loosened. The brain, in a sense, dreams with its guard partly lowered, free from the region that would otherwise ask whether any of it makes sense. A dream can shift from a childhood kitchen to a floating city without any sense of strangeness, and the quieted prefrontal cortex may be why. Without its steady hand on logic, scenes change shape freely. Characters merge, impossible things pass unquestioned. The dreaming mind accepts what waking judgment would immediately challenge. It simply continues on, following each turn as though it were the only path available. At the back of the brain, the visual cortex glows with activity throughout a dream, even though the eyes remain closed and the room stays dark. Scans show this region behaving almost as it would while watching a sunrise or a familiar street. No outside light reaches it, yet it renders color, motion, depth. The pictures rising through sleep are, in this sense, genuinely seen, just not with the eyes. Certain regions tied to memory light up while dreaming unfolds, threading old experience into the material of the night. Traces of the day's small moments surface alongside older, half-forgotten scenes. The brain appears to be sorting, linking, folding new information into what it already holds. Dreaming, in this light, looks less like escape and more like quiet housekeeping performed while the body rests. Deep within the temporal lobe, the hippocampus takes part in this nightly sorting, helping shuttle memories toward more lasting storage. It has long been known as the brain's gateway for forming new memories while awake. During dreaming, it appears to stay engaged, passing fragments back and forth with other regions. The exact way it shapes what we dream is still being mapped, one careful study at a time. During the lighter stages of non-REM sleep, brief bursts of electrical activity called sleep spindles ripple across the brain. Researchers have linked these small surges to the strengthening of memories formed during the day. They appear most often in the hours before REM sleep even begins. Each spindle seems to mark a quiet moment of consolidation, memory settling more firmly into place before dreaming resumes. In sleep laboratories, researchers have found that playing a particular sound during learning, then replaying that same sound during sleep, can nudge the content of dreams toward the material just studied. This method, known as targeted memory reactivation, offers a rare window into shaping dream content from the outside. It suggests the sleeping brain remains open to certain external cues, weaving them gently into its ongoing work. Feel the weight of your body now, resting fully into the mattress beneath you. Let your feet grow heavy first, then your legs, sinking a little further with each breath. Let that heaviness rise slowly upward, through the hips, the back, the chest, each part settling deeper than the one before. Your arms grow heavy too, your hands loosening at your sides. The whole body rests now, unmoving, held entirely by the surface beneath it. Practice something in the evening, and traces of it often return that same night in dreams. Studies show that people who spend time learning a new skill before bed are more likely to dream about elements of that activity. The dreaming mind seems drawn back to freshly formed memories, replaying fragments of the day's effort. It appears to keep working quietly on what the waking hours began. One well-known study asked volunteers to play a simple falling block puzzle game for hours before sleep, then asked them what they dreamed. Many described seeing the same shapes drifting and rotating in the dark behind their eyes. Even those who had never played video games before, the dreaming brain, it seemed, had taken hold of the game's patterns and continued arranging them long after the hands had stopped moving. At Harvard Medical School, a researcher named Robert Stickgold turned this curiosity into a rigorous experiment. He gathered volunteers with widely different levels of gaming experience, including some who had never touched a controller before that day. Across several nights, many reported drifting images of blocks, sliding and locking into place, returning again and again in half-formed dreams. His work became one of the clearest demonstrations that dreaming borrows directly from what the mind has just practiced. Rehearsing a task inside a dream appears to leave a mark on how well it is performed the next day. Researchers studying skill learning have found that participants who dreamed about a puzzle or a maze often solved it faster after waking. The dreaming mind, in these cases, seems to continue refining a skill long after conscious practice has ended. It is as if an unseen apprentice keeps working through the night, smoothing rough edges the waking hours left unfinished. This connection between dream content and daily learning offers one of the strongest arguments that dreaming serves memory processing. If dreams were only random noise, such precise echoes of recent practice would be difficult to explain. Instead, the pattern suggests the sleeping brain revisits fresh experience with purpose, folding it into deeper storage. The evidence remains circumstantial, yet it points towards something functional happening beneath the stillness of sleep. Procedural memory, the kind that lets fingers remember a melody, or hands remember a bicycle's balance, depends heavily on sleep to become lasting. Skills practiced during the day remain fragile until a full night's rest allows the brain to strengthen the pathways involved. Musicians, athletes, and typists all show measurable improvement after sleep, even without additional practice. The body seems to finish the lesson the mind began while awake, working through the night to make movement effortless by morning. Acts, names, and the details of a conversation rely on a different kind of sleep than movement and rhythm do. Declarative memory, the storehouse of things we can consciously recall, appears to consolidate mostly during the deep, slow-wave stages of non-REM sleep. During these hours, the brain replays patterns of activity recorded earlier in the day, transferring them from short-term holding into more permanent storage. The distinction reveals that sleep is not one uniform process but several, each tuned to a different kind of remembering. A network of brain regions, usually linked to wandering thought and inner reflection, lights up during dreaming much as it does during idle daytime moments. Neuroscience calls this the default mode network, active whenever the mind turns inward rather than toward the outside world. Its presence during REM sleep suggests dreaming and daydreaming share more than a passing resemblance. Both may draw from the same inward-facing machinery, whether the eyes are open in daylight or closed in the dark. Beyond dreaming, this same web of regions grows active whenever a person drifts into memory, imagines the future, or turns attention toward their own sense of self. Psychologists first noticed it lighting up in brain scans of people resting, with no task to perform at all. Its steady presence in both dreaming and daydreaming has led neuroscience to suspect that dreams are, at their core, a kind of nighttime self-reflection. The boundary between imagining and dreaming may be thinner than it first appears. When people describe their dreams, the accounts often unfold with a beginning, a rising complication, and some form of resolution, much like a story told around a fire. Researchers studying thousands of dream narratives have noticed recurring structures, a setting established, a conflict introduced, tension building before a shift or an ending. This storytelling shape appears across cultures and age groups, suggesting the sleeping mind organizes experience the way the waking mind organizes memory into narrative. Perhaps the brain cannot help but tell itself stories, awake or asleep. Somewhere beyond these walls, a low hum rises and fades, a heater cycling on, wind moving through a gap in the eaves. Let that faint sound become a kind of tide, arriving and receding without asking anything of you. Each time it fades, let your shoulders fall a fraction further from your ears. Each time it returns, let it carry you a little further from thought, the way a settling house creaks once and then rests. There is only this drifting now, this low hush of the world outside, and the warm dark holding you where you are. REM sleep may serve as an emotional processing chamber, allowing the brain to revisit difficult feelings while the stress chemistry of waking life stays turned down low. Brain imaging shows that during REM, regions tied to emotion remain highly active, even as the chemical most associated with stress response drops to its lowest levels of the day. This unusual pairing, strong feeling paired with low-stress chemistry, might let the sleeping mind rehearse difficult memories safely, wearing down their sharp edges. It remains an open question whether this nightly practice is the true purpose of dreaming, or one among several effects running alongside it. Light sleep, by one account, may have evolved as a kind of watch shift for the ancient brain. The Sentinel hypothesis imagines early humans easing into shallow rest, while some thread of awareness stayed tuned to rustling grass or a shifting wind. This lighter stage, unlike deep slow-wave sleep, keeps the senses partly online, ready to surface at the first hint of danger. Across evolutionary history, staying half awake may have kept many ancestors alive through the night. A separate line of sleep science argues that REM sleep's restorative functions may run independently of whatever a person dreams about. The biological housekeeping of REM, hormone balancing, brain cooling, neural repair, may unfold on its own timetable, regardless of story or image. Dream content, then, might simply ride along as a side effect, not the reason the stage exists at all. The repair work continues whether a dream is remembered as vivid or forgotten completely. Byproduct is the plain word for what the epiphenomenon hypothesis calls dreaming. Under this framework, REM sleep exists for its neurological maintenance, and the vivid stories that arise are simply exhaust from that deeper machinery running. The brain, busy consolidating and repairing, happens to generate stray sparks of imagery along the way. Whether or not those sparks carry meaning becomes, in this account, beside the point. Danger, rehearsed safely, is what threat simulation theory proposes. Dreams are built to practice. The theory suggests the resting brain generates simulated threats, an unseen animal, a fall, a shadow closing in, so the nervous system can rehearse its response without real consequence. Each dream becomes a kind of training exercise, sharpening reflexes the body might one day need while fully awake. The danger passes, but the practiced response may remain. Antti Revonsuo, a Finnish cognitive scientist, first proposed threat simulation theory in the late 1990s. He noticed that dreams disproportionately feature threatening events, chases, falls, confrontations, far more often than ordinary daily life would predict. To Revonsuo, this imbalance looked less like randomness and more like a rehearsal system, tuned by evolution to keep ancient dangers fresh in practice. His theory reframed nightmares not as flaws in rest, but as ancient training sessions still running. Bonds, not just dangers, appear to get rehearsed during rest too. Social simulation theory suggests dreams featuring friends, family, and strangers may help the brain practice reading faces, tones, and shifting group dynamics. Dream researchers point out that most dream characters are familiar people rather than threats, hinting at a rehearsal space built for connection as much as survival. Under this view, a dream about a crowded gathering may be strengthening the same skills used the next day. Unfinished feelings often resurface once the day's demands fall away. Dreams may return again and again to arguments left unsettled, or worries never fully spoken, working through them in imagery rather than words. Researchers who study emotional processing describe this as the brain's way of finishing conversations the waking hours interrupted. The conflict itself may not resolve by morning, but something in its weight seems to shift overnight. Balance is the word at the center of the mood regulatory function hypothesis. This idea holds that dreaming helps steady emotional chemistry overnight, smoothing spikes of sadness or anxiety accumulated across the previous day. People deprived of REM sleep in laboratory studies often show more irritability and emotional volatility the following morning, a pattern consistent with this steadying role. Dreaming, in this light, may work like an emotional thermostat running through the dark hours. Long before laboratories studied sleep, people already trusted it to solve problems. Inventors, writers, and thinkers across centuries have described waking with sudden solutions that eluded them the evening before, as though some unfinished puzzle had been turned over in the dark. These accounts remain anecdotal, impossible to test under controlled conditions, yet they appear again and again across very different eras and cultures. Something about stepping away from a problem and letting rest take over seems to help. Let warmth begin at your feet now, spreading upward like sunlight moving across a floor. Feel it ease into your ankles, then rise through your calves, loosening what the day left tight. Let it climb through your knees and thighs, pooling there like something poured from a warm cup. Let it reach your chest, unhooking each breath from any hurry, then your shoulders, your arms, your fingers, until your whole body rests inside one warm tide, heavy and unbothered, asking nothing more of you tonight. Dmitry Mendeleev, a chemist obsessed with ordering the elements, claimed the periodic table's shape came to him complete in a dream. He later said he saw a table where every element fell into its proper place, waking to write it down before the vision could fade. Whether the story is precise or slightly polished by memory, the pattern he sketched that morning still organizes chemistry today. Auguste Kekulé said the ring structure of benzene revealed itself to him in a dream of a serpent curling around to swallow its own tail. Staring into the fire one evening, half asleep, he watched atoms dance into chains that suddenly closed into a loop. That image of the self-consuming snake became, in his telling, the key to understanding one of chemistry's most important molecules. Paul McCartney once said the melody for Yesterday arrived whole in a dream, already finished, waiting only for words. He woke certain he must have heard it somewhere before, playing it for friends to check he hadn't simply remembered someone else's song. No one recognized it. What began as a dream became one of the most recorded songs in history. Mary Shelley traced the origin of Frankenstein back to a waking dream during a stormy summer spent in Switzerland. She described seeing, behind closed eyes, a pale student hovering over the thing he had assembled, watching it stir with unwanted life. That single unsettling image, she later wrote, became the seed from which the entire novel grew. Ancient Egyptians regarded dreams as messages sent directly from the gods, worthy of careful record and response. Priests trained to interpret them, and dream books listed symbols alongside their divine meanings. Some Egyptians slept inside temples, specifically hoping the gods would speak to them in the night, treating dreaming as a form of communication reaching across the boundary between mortal and sacred worlds. Mesopotamian scribes pressed dream interpretations into tablets of soft clay, using reed styluses to preserve symbols and their meanings for generations to come. These records, some of the oldest writing found anywhere, treated dreams as worthy of the same careful documentation as laws or trade. Long before paper existed, entire libraries of dreams were being catalogued in wet earth, later baked hard by fire. The Epic of Gilgamesh, among humanity's oldest surviving stories, describes dreams said to foretell events still to come. Its hero receives visions before battles and losses, treating sleep as a kind of preview of fate rather than mere rest. This ancient belief that dreams could glimpse forward in time echoes through myth after myth across the centuries that followed. Greek healing temples, called Asclepions, welcomed the sick to sleep within their walls, hoping the god of medicine would visit them in dreams. Patients lay on stone floors near sacred serpents, waiting for visions that priests would later interpret as guidance toward recovery. For centuries, dreaming and healing were treated as closely bound, one leading naturally toward the other. Aristotle broke from centuries of divine explanation, arguing that dreams arise from the body's own sensations rather than any message sent by the gods. He suggested that faint bodily signals, magnified in sleep, could be mistaken for outside events or omens. This early, physical account of dreaming stood apart from the temples and prophecies around him, planting an idea that science would return to much later. Artemidorus, writing in the 2nd century, produced one of history's first systematic guides to interpreting dreams, collecting thousands of reported images and their possible meanings. He traveled widely gathering accounts, treating dream interpretation almost like a craft to be studied rather than a mystical gift. His work, called the Critica, would influence dream interpreters for nearly 2,000 years afterward. The last ember in the hearth glows low, its edges turning from orange to ash gray. Watch how the light softens without vanishing, fading by degrees rather than all at once. Your thoughts can dim the same way tonight, not switched off, just cooling slowly into rest. Let your breath follow that same unhurried fade, each one a little lower, a little slower than the last, until the glow of the day finally settles into warm dark. Across many indigenous cultures, dreaming is described not as imagination but as travel, a nightly crossing into a spirit realm where ancestors, animals, and unseen forces reside. In this understanding, the sleeping self does not simply invent images, but visits a real parallel place. Elders in many traditions have long treated dreams as messages worth carrying back into waking life, threads connecting the living to something older than memory. In Australia, Aboriginal cultures speak of the dreaming, a vast creation story describing how ancestral beings shaped the land, rivers, and sky in a time before time. This dreaming is not confined to sleep alone. It lives in songlines, ceremonies, and the landscape itself. Yet nightly dreams are still understood as touching that same deep current, brief openings into the same timeless act of creation. Zhuangzi, an ancient Chinese philosopher, once dreamed he was a butterfly, drifting weightless and content, with no memory of being a man. Waking, he wondered which was real, the man dreaming of the butterfly, or the butterfly now dreaming it was a man. This gentle riddle became one of philosophy's oldest meditations on dreaming, blurring the line between the dreamed world and the one we call awake. The Bible tells of Joseph, gifted with dreams that seemed to reach beyond his own understanding, including visions of sheaves of grain bowing before him. His coat of many colors became a symbol of favor, but it was his dreams that shaped his story most, foretelling famine, power, and reunion. In this ancient telling, dreaming was treated as a channel through which divine knowledge could quietly enter human life. Within the Quran, dreams appear as genuine vehicles of prophecy, carrying guidance meant to be trusted and acted upon. One well-known account describes a vision of sacrifice, tested and ultimately transformed through mercy. Islamic tradition has long distinguished between ordinary dreams and true visions, treating the latter as a subtle form of revelation offered gently during the stillness of sleep. In 1899, a Viennese doctor named Sigmund Freud published a book that would quietly reshape how much of the world thought about sleep. Titled The Interpretation of Dreams, it argued that nightly visions were not random noise but carried hidden meaning, waiting to be uncovered. The book sold slowly at first, yet its ideas would eventually reach far beyond medicine into art, literature, and everyday conversation. Freud proposed that dreams give voice to desires the waking mind keeps hidden, often burying feelings too uncomfortable to face directly. He believed these buried wishes did not disappear but resurfaced at night, disguised in symbol and story. To him, the strangeness of dreams was not confusion but disguise, the mind speaking in code, so it could say what it otherwise could not. Between the dream we remember and the meaning beneath it, Freud drew a careful line, naming the two the manifest and the latent content. The manifest content was the dream as told, the images, the people, the strange sequences upon waking. The latent content, he believed, was the hidden wish underneath, translated into symbol so it could pass safely into consciousness without alarm. To Freud, every dream, however strange or unsettling, ultimately served one purpose, the fulfillment of a wish. Even nightmares, he argued, expressed desire in disguised form, twisted by anxiety, but rooted in longing all the same. This idea, that sleep quietly grants the mind what waking life withholds, remains one of the most debated notions in the history of dream study. A rift grew between Freud and one of his closest followers, a Swiss psychiatrist named Carl Jung. Jung had once been considered Freud's natural successor, yet he came to see dreams differently, not as disguises for forbidden wishes, but as something broader, older, and less personal. Their disagreement grew sharp enough to end their friendship entirely. From that break, an entirely separate branch of dream study took root, one that would travel in its own direction for the rest of the century. Let your jaw loosen, the way a hinge settles when nothing pulls it shut anymore. Feel the small muscles around your eyes give up their hold, lash by lash, until your eyelids rest heavy as folded cloth. Behind them, the dark is not empty but soft, a wide, unlit room with no need for a lamp. Let your face become still water, unbothered by any breeze. There is only this dim, private hush behind your closed eyes, asking nothing of you at all. Jung suggested that beneath each person's private dreams lay a deeper layer shared by everyone, a kind of inherited memory he called the collective unconscious. This was not one person's history but humanity's, carried forward silently through generations. Dreams, he thought, sometimes reach down into this shared depth, surfacing images far older than the dreamer's own life. It was a striking departure from Freud, less about hidden wishes and more about ancient inheritance. Within that shared depth, Jung believed certain figures returned again and again, recognizable across cultures and centuries. He called them archetypes, patterns like the wise elder, the shadow, or the nurturing mother, appearing in dreams wearing different faces, but carrying familiar weight. To Jung, their repetition was evidence of something structural in the human psyche, a kind of internal architecture shaping the shapes our dreams take. Not every early thinker followed Jung's path either. The Austrian physician Alfred Adler, once part of Freud's circle himself, proposed something more grounded. He linked dream content to a person's waking goals and to feelings of inferiority they carried through daily life. For Adler, dreams were rehearsals of striving, small nightly attempts to work toward the confidence a person lacked while awake. Decades later, the American psychologist Calvin Hall offered a quieter, more measurable idea. He proposed that dreams were less about hidden wishes or ancient archetypes and more about self-conception, reflecting how a person saw themselves and the people around them. A dream, to Hall, was something closer to a mirror than a code, showing relationships and self-image the dreamer might not consciously notice. Chicago-based researcher Rosalind Cartwright turned toward something more practical still, studying how dreaming helped people adapt emotionally to difficult periods of life. Her research suggested dreams were not decoration, but function, a nightly process for absorbing and softening emotional weight. Under her lens, dreaming looked less mysterious and more like quiet maintenance work happening while the body rested. One of Cartwright's most striking projects followed people going through divorce, tracking their dreams across months of upheaval. She found that those who dreamed vividly about their former partners, working through the loss in sleep, often adjusted better afterward than those who did not. Dreaming, in these cases, seemed to function as a slow, private form of healing, stitched together one night at a time. A later framework known as continual activation theory offered a different angle entirely, suggesting dreaming exists to keep memory processes running smoothly through the night. In this view, the brain generates dream content almost as a byproduct, a way of maintaining its own systems when no new waking input arrives. The dream then becomes less a message and more a hum of ongoing upkeep. Other researchers have wondered whether dreaming serves an even simpler purpose, keeping the visual cortex active during the long hours of darkness when the eyes send nothing to see. Without some form of internal stimulation, this theory suggests visual processing might grow sluggish from disuse. Dreaming, then, could be the brain quietly exercising its own sight, painting scenes for no eyes but its own. Researchers eventually gave this idea a name of its own, the proto-consciousness theory. It suggests that the dreaming brain of an infant is not producing stories so much as rehearsing the very architecture of consciousness, wiring circuits that will later carry waking awareness. Dreaming, under this view, becomes an early scaffold, built long before there is anything to think about. The dream comes first, and the mind grows around it. Michel Jouvet, working in Lyon in the 1960s, traced REM sleep down to a small cluster of structures deep in the brainstem of cats. By stimulating and studying this region, he found the exact switch that turns the paralysis and dreaming state on and off. His work anchored decades of dream science to a physical, findable place inside the skull. Wonder, for once, had an address. Let your exhale grow a little longer than your inhale, one breath at a time. There is no need to count them or correct them, only to notice the slight pause where each one settles. Each breath leaving your body carries a little more weight out with it, like a tide pulling gently from the shore. Let the next one come whenever it wants to. There is no schedule here, only breath, arriving and leaving, arriving and leaving. When Jouvet removed the small brainstem region responsible for muscle paralysis, something remarkable followed. The cats began to move during REM sleep, stalking invisible prey, arching against unseen threats, acting out whatever unfolded behind their closed eyes. Their bodies, freed from the usual stillness of dreaming, became a kind of window into a world no one else could see. The paralysis, it turned out, had been protecting them all along. This same acting out closely resembles a condition found in humans, known as REM sleep behavior disorder. People affected by it lose the paralysis that normally holds the body still during dreaming, and they begin to speak, gesture, even strike out at whatever is happening in the dream. Their bed partners often notice it long before they do themselves. The mind dreams as it always has, only the body forgets to stay behind. In certain cases, this disorder appears years before anything else changes, quietly preceding the onset of Parkinson's disease. Neurologists now watch for it as an early signal, a kind of distant weather system arriving long before the storm itself. The connection remains an area of active study, but the pattern has held often enough to matter. Sometimes the body speaks its future before the mind is ready to hear it. Certain antidepressants, particularly older classes taken widely for decades, suppress REM sleep almost entirely. Under their influence, the brain slips through the night with barely a trace of the rapid eye movement stage once thought essential to health. For years, this puzzled sleep researchers, since REM had seemed so central to the architecture of rest, yet the body, remarkably, adapts. People taking these REM-suppressing medications still report normal daytime functioning, going about their lives with no obvious cost. Memory, mood, and alertness generally hold steady, despite the near absence of the dreaming stage. This finding quietly complicates the idea that REM sleep is strictly necessary for waking life. The brain, it seems, has more than one way of getting where it needs to go. A glass of wine before bed changes the shape of the night more than most people realize. Alcohol tends to reduce REM sleep in the first half of the night, pushing the body deeper into slower, dreamless stages instead. The dreaming often returns later, sometimes more vivid than usual, as the body catches up on what it missed. The night, in this way, simply rearranges itself around the disruption. Marijuana use is associated with a noticeable drop in dream recall, even when the dreaming itself may still be occurring beneath the surface. Regular users often report waking with little or no memory of having dreamed at all. Whether this reflects less dreaming or simply less remembering remains genuinely unclear. The dream may still be there, waiting just out of reach of the waking mind. Stopping regular marijuana use can bring on a rush of rebound dreaming, as REM sleep long suppressed comes flooding back. Dreams during this period often arrive unusually vivid, intense, sometimes strange. This rebound shows how the drive to dream accumulates when it is delayed, waiting until it can finally be released. The body, it turns out, does not forget its dreaming ledger. It settles the account later, often all at once. Certain foods have long been blamed for strange or vivid dreams, spicy meals, aged cheese, a late dessert. Anecdotes abound, passed between friends and folklore alike. Yet controlled research finds little solid evidence linking any specific food to dream content. Digestion, body temperature, and sleep timing may all play a greater part than any single ingredient. The dreaming mind, it seems, resists such easy explanations. Dreaming may serve a role in creative problem solving, according to a strand of research exploring the sleeping mind's flexibility. During REM sleep, the brain forms loose, unusual associations that waking logic might never allow. This loosened structure may let solutions surface that rigid daytime thinking overlooks. Whether this counts as true creativity remains open to interpretation, but the pattern recurs often enough to draw attention. Feel the weight of your body now, settling deeper into whatever holds you. Your feet grow heavy first, then your legs, sinking as the mattress seems to rise gradually to meet them. That heaviness moves upward, through your hips, your stomach, your chest, each part surrendering its weight completely. Your shoulders drop low, your arms rest, unlifted, unneeded. Even your head feels less like something to hold up, and more like something already held. Stay here, heavy and still, for as long as you like. A problem carried to bed unsolved sometimes finds its answer by morning, the mind having worked through it while the sleeper rested. This practice, called dream incubation, has old roots, appearing in the habits of artists and inventors alike. The sleeping brain seems freed from certain constraints, able to test associations the waking mind would dismiss too quickly. Not every incubated problem resolves this way, but often enough to keep the practice alive across centuries. During childhood and adolescence, the brain forms more neural connections than it will ever keep, and dreaming may help decide which ones survive. One hypothesis holds that dreaming assists synaptic pruning, trimming unused pathways, so the remaining network runs with greater clarity. Under this view, the strange logic of a dream may be less about meaning and more about maintenance. The brain, tidying itself, produces something we experience as story. The overfitted brain hypothesis offers a newer way of understanding why dreams feel so strange. Overfitting, a term borrowed from machine learning, describes a system that memorizes its training too closely, losing the ability to generalize. Dreaming, under this hypothesis, injects weirdness deliberately, forcing the brain's model of the world to stay flexible rather than rigid. The bizarre imagery of dreams may be less a flaw and more a kind of protective noise. Eric Houle, a neuroscientist, proposed the overfitted brain hypothesis in 2021, drawing directly on ideas from artificial intelligence. He noticed that machine learning systems trained too narrowly often perform poorly outside their training data, and wondered whether biological brains might face a similar risk. Dreaming, he suggested, could be evolution's answer, a recurring dose of strangeness that keeps the mind's model of reality broad enough to handle whatever the waking world presents. This hypothesis compares dreaming to a technique called noise injection, used by engineers to keep artificial neural networks from memorizing too rigidly. By feeding a system deliberately corrupted or randomized data during training, engineers help it generalize better once released into the real world. Dreams, in this framework, may function the same way, corrupting ordinary memory just enough to preserve flexibility. The strangeness of a dream, then, might be a feature rather than an accident. Elsewhere in this emerging field, researchers now use artificial intelligence models to simulate dreamlike generative processes directly, watching how machines behave when trained on noisy or incomplete data. These experiments echo the overfitted brain hypothesis in reverse, testing in silicon what may be happening in neurons. The comparison remains imperfect, Human dreaming carries emotion, memory, and meaning no algorithm yet possesses. Even so, the parallel offers a strange kind of company, machine and mind imagining side by side. Deep neural networks that generate images have earned a curious comparison to dreaming. When these systems produce pictures from noise, layering pattern upon pattern, the results often look strange and fluid, much like the imagery reported from sleep. Researchers did not design them to mimic dreams, yet the resemblance struck early observers immediately. Machines built for pattern recognition, pushed past their normal limits, began to hallucinate shapes that were never there. Google's Deep Dream algorithm took its name directly from this dreamlike quality. Engineers built it to reveal what a neural network detects within an image, amplifying patterns the machine already recognized. The outputs, full of eyes, spirals, and animal fragments blooming from ordinary photographs, looked uncannily like descriptions of dreams. The name stuck because the resemblance felt too fitting to ignore. A few thinkers wonder whether shared dreaming between two people could one day be tested under laboratory conditions. The idea imagines two sleepers, monitored closely, somehow meeting within the same imagined space. No method yet exists to verify such an event scientifically. The speculation remains a hopeful sketch, drawn at the edge of what instruments can currently measure. No verified evidence today supports the idea that dreams can be shared telepathically between minds. Careful experiments, run under controlled conditions, have failed to produce reliable results. Reports of shared dreams tend to rely on memory, coincidence, or the natural overlap of everyday concerns. The absence of proof does not erase the wonder of the idea, but it does keep it outside the boundary of established science. Somewhere beyond the window, a low hum rises and fades, the sound of a house settling into itself. It might be wind moving through unseen gaps, or a distant machine easing into rest. You do not need to name it. Let it pass through the room like a tide that always knows its way back out. Each breath you take grows a little longer than the last, unhurried, matching the rhythm of that far-off fading sound. Certain dream researchers who study paranormal claims argue that some dreams predict future events with striking accuracy. They point to cases where a sleeper reports an image or scene that later seems to unfold in waking life. These accounts often circulate widely, gathering attention through their apparent precision. Formal investigation, however, has not confirmed that such predictions occur beyond what chance would allow. Mainstream science attributes these apparent predictions to coincidence and the quiet tricks memory plays on us. A dream contains countless vague images. Life eventually brushes against a few of them. Once an event occurs, memory reshapes the earlier dream to fit it more closely than it originally did. What feels like foresight is often the mind arranging the past to match the present. At the Maimonides Dream Laboratory in the 1960s, researchers set out to study dream telepathy under scientific conditions. Sleepers were monitored through the night, while a separate person concentrated on an image meant to be received in dream form. The setup was careful, methodical, built to satisfy skeptics as much as believers. It became one of the most sustained efforts ever made to test the idea formally. The results from those experiments turned out to be inconclusive, and later attempts could not reliably repeat them. Some trials showed intriguing correlations, others showed none at all. Without consistent replication, the findings could not be accepted as solid evidence. The laboratory closed, its work remembered as a thoughtful, unresolved chapter in the study of sleep. People who have come close to death sometimes describe imagery that feels distinctly dreamlike. Tunnels of light, encounters with figures long gone, landscapes that shift without warning. These accounts echo the fluid logic of ordinary dreams. Whether they arise from oxygen changes in the brain, memory surges, or something science has not yet mapped remains an open question. The reports themselves, calm and vivid, continue to sit at the outer edge of what we understand about consciousness. A handful of fringe theories suggest dreams might brush against parallel realities, as if the sleeping mind briefly touches a version of existence running alongside our own. No instrument has ever detected such a thing. The idea lives mostly in speculation and story, a comforting notion that other lives, other choices, might unfold somewhere just out of reach. It remains, by every measure available, unproven. Many spiritual traditions across the world hold that dreams open a passage to loved ones who have died. A grandmother appears at a kitchen table. A father speaks without moving his lips. These encounters carry enormous emotional weight for those who experience them, offering comfort that ordinary waking life cannot always provide. Science has no way to confirm contact beyond the mind, though it rarely questions the comfort such dreams bring. A small number of thinkers go further still, wondering whether waking consciousness itself might share the same fabric as dreaming. Under this view, the vivid certainty we feel about daylight and solid objects is not so different from the certainty a dreamer feels at midnight. Philosophy has turned this thought over for centuries without settling it. Neuroscience, for its part, offers no clear boundary where dream ends and waking truly begins. When simulation theory entered public conversation, some thinkers reached for dreaming as its closest familiar cousin. A dreamer inhabits a convincing world built entirely from within, unaware for a while that anything is constructed. If reality were likewise generated by some deeper process, the comparison suggests we might feel exactly as certain of it as any dreamer feels of a dream. The analogy is poetic more than proven, a mirror held up to an old question. Looking ahead, a number of futurists imagine technology, one day capable of recording a dream and playing it back like a film. Early experiments already translate rough shapes and colors from brain activity into blurred images. Whether a full, sharp narrative could ever be captured this way remains far from certain. The hope itself is tender, a wish to share the private theater each of us visits alone every night. After all these theories, all this careful looking, the deepest question about dreaming still has no single answer. Memory, emotion, survival, creativity, meaning, each explanation holds some truth, yet none fully accounts for the whole of it. Perhaps dreaming resists one purpose because it touches so many at once. Tonight, as your own mind prepares to wander into whatever story it chooses, let that uncertainty rest easy. You do not need the answer to be carried gently into sleep. Good night.